Hello everyone, and welcome to the second installment in a 4-part series where I'm going to be showing you some elemental builds that I've been working on. Now, before I start, make sure you remember that all these builds are highly optimized and can still work well with a few missing or different enchantments if you can't manage to slot them in. And all the characters that are shown in this series are copies of my main account, so that's why there's nothing else in my inventory besides a gong on the occasional ones. And without further ado, let's move on to this poison-focused build that I'm going to be calling the Venom Vendetta. And to start off with my weapon, I have the Venom Glaive. Now, it was a really choice between this and the Nightmare's Bite, but in the end I went with the Glaive just because of its longer reach, and I kind of like the harder hitting weapons, less fast weapons that do less damage. I don't like those as much as the hard hitting weapons, and this one also spawns more poison clouds because of its area, and it's just, in my opinion, a little bit better. Now, of course, for the skills, it has long melee reach and spawns poison clouds, and then for gilded, I have gives critical hit. Poison clouds, I mean, this is a poison focused build, so of course that's why I chose the Glaive in the first place. And then for the enchantments, I have swirling, sharpness, and void strike. Swirling, because I've always used swirling on glaives. I think it's just a really must-have enchantment because there's a lot of attacking up front and you can't really hit behind you, and swirling's just there to clear out the mobs behind you. It's really helpful. Then sharpness, of course, because I just want to deal more damage, and it's really helpful for doing that because it's like a 33% increase, which in the long run is a huge amount. And then for the final enchantment, I have Void Strike, which gives a huge damage multiplier on enemies that are already hit or hit a lot more. This build is really focused on more powerful enemies because of the poison and venom and Void Strike, because it's really good at wearing down on them slowly or quickly depending on what type of enemy. Like, it's really good for bosses, but it's also good all-around build. Of course, power is midway, pretty low speed, but we have the death cap for that. And then a decently high area, not a little less than midway, but still really, really good. Now, next up for the armor, I have the Living Vines armor, which for skills has health potions here nearby allies, traps and poisons nearby mobs when rolling, and reduced roll cooldown or acrobatics for one of the skills, and of course increased poison damage for the gilded. Now, this was pretty much no-brainer for me. It took me a really long time to actually find this piece of armor because I really wanted it to be the best it could possibly be. It took me a long time to find all of these equipment because I really wanted to make it the best. I wanted to make it super optimized and work really well, because I want to share these builds with you guys just so you can follow along the lines, don't have to perfectly copy it. For enchantments, of course, cooldown or double cooldown, because a lot of my artifacts that I use, like the death cap and the seeds, the death cap I want it to always be up, and then the seeds are really just good for more AoE. And multi-roll to coincide with the traps and poisons near my mobs when rolling, and of course the increased poison damage. And overall, this is the best piece of armor for a poison build, just because of all the skills already built in. It really made sense to use this armor, and I was so happy when I finally managed to get it. And for my bow, I'm using the Lightning Heart Crossbow, which shoots 3 projectiles, hits multiple targets, ricochet, and gilded increased fire rate. For enchantments, I have Piercing, Multi-Shot, and Poison Cloud. Piercing, so I can get through all those enemies, multi-shot to get through even more enemies, and then poison cloud to get through all those enemies and leave poison trails behind. And of course, increased fire rate, rapid fire, just so I can deal with those big groups. The glaive is good at crowd control, but this bow really excels at that. And we have moderate attack, high speed, and moderate ammo. This bow is probably not the best, but it had all the best enchantments I could use, so that's why I went ahead and started using it. And finally, for the artifacts, I have the Death Cap Mushroom, just because it's pretty much essential for every melee focused build, just so you can deal the most damage as quickly as you possibly can. The Soul Healer, just so I can use those souls for something and for more survivability and tough situations. And I have the Corrupted Seeds, just because it's a poison focused build. I wanted to be using more obscure artifacts, weapons, armor, all that stuff. And this is actually a really good artifact. I never expected it to be as good as it is. I'm not sure it works on the dummy, but when I showcase it, you'll definitely be able to see why I'm talking about it this way. Alright, and for our base hits with the Glaive, pretty decent damage. Starting off crit 6 million. Mushroom. You see the poison cloud ticking away, 75, 60k. 3.5 million. Pretty good damage at a nice speed. And, 8 million. Okay, I haven't hit that yet. Well, now I just have. That's cool. Dang, I didn't know it could get that high. Let me go ahead and try it with the gong. And with the gong in use, 16, 10, Void Strike gets it 16. That was a lot of crits. 50, 15 million. Gong again. The Void Strike normal hits. We're doing as much as we usually do with a crit. Insane. 250k on that poison. Overall, yeah, like, this is a really good weapon for this type of poison, but also damage focused build. Gong really takes it to that next level, but it still does good without it. And now for something that I actually might be my favorite part of the build, which is the bow. As you can see, all that damage there, but also all the poison. It's doing more than the Glaive, which is surprising me, but activate Gong. 430, I think we're about to run out of arrows, yeah. It was doing like a consistent 500,000 per hit with the Gong, I think. It was hard to tell because they were all bunched up together. But yeah, this bow is really good for crowd control and hitting big groups of mobs. And finally, yeah, that's what I thought. Unfortunately, the corrupted seeds just like electrified for the other build. They do not work on the training dummy. It's a little bit annoying, but it's fine. I can live with it because I'm about to showcase this build for you guys in a level just so you can get a better understanding of how it would work in like an actual environment. And of course, I'm gonna be doing it on plus 25 just so I can make sure that, and just so you guys can make sure that these builds can actually be carried into the late game. Now I think it's time for you guys to see how this build can really perform. Alright, and as you can probably tell by now, I'm going to be showcasing this build in the Dingy Juggled, just because it really fits the build aesthetically, and it's also pretty enjoyable. One shot that creeper. A lot of one shot. Not two. Corrupted seeds, let me find a spot to use them. Go roll. Poison vines coming in handy there. Seeds. Yep. It's like the blast fungus, except there's no explosion. It's really just a big AoE attack that traps all the enemies, which I'm not sure if I prefer it. I mean, it's definitely helpful for stopping enemies that are definitely more powerful. So instead of going throughout this whole level with just some little commentary, I'm just gonna be showing you guys a small little compilation of me going throughout it. Just so you can more quickly see how this build will actually work in combat. There's no boss, I believe, in this one, so I think I'll just come back to you maybe either once I get to the puzzle part, or get to the boss puzzle part, or at the end of the level I'll just give you a small little rundown. Alright, so in the end, I decided not to record the puzzle with a voiceover. I just beat it, and you probably saw some clips of that in the compilation. But overall, this is a pretty fun build to use. I fainted once, or died once, and it was because of those ape-like vine creatures, which are actually really difficult and almost one-shot me, just because I have really no good protection, and or chilling or protection. And if it was a little higher level, I probably could take one. I can take one at least. It was 1.5 mil though, so it was really strong. But overall, this is a really fun build, really satisfying build to use, especially the crossbow. And overall, not the best, but definitely really fun to use. Alright, so before I end this video, I would just like to say thank you for watching till the end. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Have an amazing rest of your day, and goodbye.